the app got frozen. So here we are talking again. It's another one of these Norb driving vlogs, which I haven't done in quite a long time. Just got out of the dentist, no cavities. That's a good thing. And saw earlier the news that John Schneider's contract got extended by the Seahawks to the 2027 draft. So we get him for another 6 years, and we got Pete Carroll for another 5 at this point. I'm back. Mike Mays, what's up? Coop King, what's happening? So I think this is a good thing, personally. I know it's kind of hard to feel good about a lot of stuff with the Seahawks, given the way that their exit went against the Rams this past weekend. But, you know, the season still, overall, I still thought it was a good season. I still thought, looking back, there was a lot of great things about the season. Yeah, it's like a movie. If it doesn't end well, you feel kind of bad afterwards. It feels like, you know, the ending sort of dictates how the whole thing went. And yeah, we all wanted to at least get back to the divisional. I think we had been many times during the season said, if we don't get past the divisional, it's going to be a disappointment. Well, we didn't make it back to the divisional, and we certainly didn't get past that. We fell one short. So was it a disappointment? Yes, it was. Was it a terrible season? No, I would certainly not say that. I think this is actually a fun, enjoyable, exciting season. Frustrating, of course, just like every team has frustrating moments. Nobody's ever picked absolutely, you know, spotless season. It does leave a lot of questions, obviously, as to, you know, big question marks, which we're going to talk quite a bit about the next few days into the weeks to come with free agency and the draft needs. Which players do we keep? Which we release? Coaches, you know, would there potentially be any coaching changes? Obviously, nothing at the head, top of things, but would, you know, it sounds to me from what Pete is saying in his conferences that there will probably not be any imminent changes. And again, it's hard to argue people need to be fired when you've made the playoffs, right? There's some teams who, you know, look at the Jets, man. It took them to like week 15 or whatever before they finally fired their coach. And, you know, coaches have lasted a lot longer for a lot worse. Defensive coordinator, I know that, I'm not sure if it has been officially signed that Dan Quinn, formerly of the Seahawks, as defensive coordinator, and then former Atlanta head coach, was interviewing with Dallas for the defensive coordinator job. I don't know if that's been set yet or not as of late. But, you know, these are all things that need to obviously be evaluated. And the question really is, when you talk about firing and replacing people, like I said, it's so easy, especially in today's society, to just decide, I'm not happy with things. I'm going to be upset at that thing that's causing me unhappiness and get rid of it, right? That's kind of the American way. I don't like my wife. I don't like my husband. Get rid of it. Let's get a new one. I don't like you. I'm breaking up with you. I don't like this school. I'm going to transfer my kid out of it and put it into a different one. I don't like this coach, you know? So it's so easy just to change things when you feel like, I don't like it, time to switch things over. But the question again is there that something better waiting around the corner that's going to guarantee that things will actually get better when you get that replacement put in? And because it always can get worse. You can always do worse than what you got. So a replacement doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be an improvement, all right? Especially when it comes to people. It's just the way it goes. So with, you know, I can always ask that question is, you know, when it comes to this extension with John Sschneider, you know, what is his sole responsibility besides obviously running the general whole show? But really, when it comes to Sschneider and Carroll, it's the draft, right? The draft is their baby. They architect the players that they're looking for, the strategy, who they're going to get. They obviously rely on scouts and so forth to get their information, but ultimately they pull the trigger. They're the ones who make the phone calls. They're the ones who say, okay, we're going to get this guy. Here's our draft board. We're going to get these people in this place, in this spot, in this round, and so forth. And in some ways, it feels almost like John Sschneider, Pete Carroll. They have the M. Night Shyamalan syndrome. I don't know if you know M. Night Shyamalan. He's the director of The Sixth Sense, who went on to do a whole bunch of other movies after that. Well, John Sschneider and Pete Carroll, they hit home runs early on in the draft, particularly, you know, in 2010 they did well. 11, 12, those were sort of their marquee moments. They totally lived tons of changes. Got Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, Doug Baldwin, all those guys who went on to become great stars in later. So it reminds me of a little bit of M. Night Shyamalan, where he hit this huge hit right out of the bat with the Sixth Sense. And if you know anything about M. Night Shyamalan movies, they tend to have kind of the similar formula. He likes to have, you know, a lot of suspense. They're usually well-paced, interestingly paced movies, but there's usually a twist at the end. Kind of reminds me of Seattle. You know, you don't know what's going on. It's very tense throughout the game, and then everything gets really interesting and wrapped up in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's kind of like eerily similar, and I didn't even think this out. I just came up with this just right now on the top of my head. But the other part to it is sometimes when you think of M. Night Shyamalan movies, it feels almost like this guy continues to make movies. Some of them are better than others, but it seems like The Sixth Sense, that was the top movie that everybody, you know, Hollywood was rocked by, and his reputation since then has been carried by that movie, that he just almost gets a free pass. It doesn't matter how many bad movies he does since then, they'll always remember that great one that he did in the beginning. Well, the drafting, when it comes to John Sschneider and Pete Carroll, it feels almost like that, where they had this great series of drafts in the beginning, and since then, you know, you can almost say, yeah, they did okay in some, but they definitely had some bad misses, particularly in the early rounds. First round, I think Jordan Brooks this year is probably the best first round pick that they've had in over, I don't know, 5 years. It's hard to go back and really feel like, hey, we got solid in the first round. You know, in 2010, it was a slam dunk. We had Earl Thomas and who was it? Okung, I think. Those were kind of, you know, you couldn't go wrong with those, and we did well with those. But since then, you know, it's been some misses there, and I think while we have had, there's been that struggle. Maybe now it's finally coming. It took a little while, but you know, this year he actually had some good positive signs. We'll know the Malik McDowell situation, first round pick, that just completely never happened. There's Rashad Penny, which yet to determine whether he's truly worthy of a first round pick. I think this coming season, I'm guessing that Chris Carson is probably not coming back unless they surprise us and they work things out. Right now, it seems like the relations between Chris Carson and them are not good. That Chris Carson will probably find a better deal outside with some other team and probably do really well. But maybe in some weird miracle combination, they bring him back. I'd love to see him back, but my guess is that he won't, which means Rashad Penny will become the featured back. Him and DJ Dallas, those will be the two. Maybe bring back Carlos Hyde as that third back in there, the veteran guy. But that's kind of your running back group right now. Dallas, Hyde, and Penny. So Penny's this is kind of his prove-it year now, because he, you know, had the injury. We all understood it. Took many games for him to finally get back. He finally gets back, plays a little, and then he gets hurt again. So hopefully not as seriously as it was last year, but my guess is that he'll get that full season next year, and he will get the number one reps. My guess is that he'll get, you know, the full shot to really see what it's like to be the number one back. And I see Liam wants to know where I'm driving. I'm driving home from the dentist. Weird videos with Isaiah 24. How do I join to be a member? If you just go to my YouTube page, either on the internet or in here on the app, there is a join button, and that's how it shows you the different options of how to join the membership. Lena, what's up? I'm actually on 169 Maple Valley Road, passing by the golf course, Maplewood on the right here. I'm only about maybe 7-10 minutes away from home. In typical Seattle weather. But where was I going? Completely got sidetracked. Oh yeah, I was talking about Rashad Penny and that whole situation. So he's got to kind of prove it next year. You know, I think if he has a great year and he rises up to be the guy that we all hoped he would be, well, maybe we'll look back and go, well, you know, he was a first rounder. Yeah, it took a couple years to get going, but look at him now. He's looking great. Somebody's asking, do you think we could land J.J. Watt? And I see I don't have this on slow chat mode because clearly those chats are flying in here repeatedly. You know, I don't know the cost issue for him. I know he's older now. He's not the J.J. Watt of the dominant years. It'd be pretty cool to get a guy who's motivated, who, you know, wants to get a ring, wants to help a team get a ring. So I think that'll be a very intriguing storyline. Again, the question is all about the numbers. And right now there's so many question marks about guys that we got to re-sign, guys we got to, you know, get rid of. You know, where's the salary cap gonna end up? We're gonna get into that big time in a little bit more detail when on a future roundtable here coming up. Probably not this week, but you know, we've got all offseason to talk about it. And so, you know, in a year where we don't have a first round pick because of the Jamal Adams trade, so you know, if we are gonna be addressing certain needs, you know, we're not exactly in the prime position to do so. So David is Beasts says, or David is Beast 5. Y'all have a great team. I don't know what happened. I don't know if you actually sound like that. I'm just reading it that way. Anytime I hear you say y'all, I just immediately want to go, y'all. What happened? I can tell you what happened. I'm going to break this down with Croce's Corner tonight. I'm really looking forward to his breakdown, because Coach Bill Marsh, because, you know, I have a lot of explaining to do. I really want to know a lot of the burning questions, like, why didn't Seattle run the ball more to Chris Carson? That really drove me crazy. Was DK Metcalf really frustrated because he was open, and did Russell just not throw to him? Was he upset that he wasn't getting the ball? Was that really the issue? You know, I'm going to see examples of plays where DK was just not seen. You know, why was there that disconnect? And of course, which led to forcing him the ball and pick six and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's a sad feeling that it felt like, you know, every team's got some bad stinker games, and it just sucked that we had to have our stinker game at the beginning of playoffs. Yeah. But it just feels like we definitely weren't prepared enough. You know, did not game plan well enough. And so going back to my whole point is, the question is, you know, do you fire all, you know, the coach, the offensive coordinator? I know that's what everybody's saying right now. Fire the OC. But does that really solve the problem? You know, because the OC, the question there is it a coaching issue? Is it directly related to the coaching issue? Or B, is it a talent issue? I feel like we've got the talent. Maybe the offensive line needs some help. I think that goes without saying. That we've definitely got some holes that need to be shored up there. And that seems to be the everlasting conversation for years and years and years. When have we not been talking about the offensive line not being bad, right? It seems like every year we say the offensive line sucks. Well, I thought we had a pretty good offensive line going into the year, and it looked